Welcome back to another episode of Pi for Thought, a podcast by the Indian Journal for Projects, Infrastructure and Energy Law. Today's episode, our guest is Mr. Rajarshi Sen. He's been an in-house counsel with Siemens. Please, sir, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, hi. So my name is Rajarshi Sen. I've become Raj because my name is difficult to pronounce at the best of times. I have been an in-house counsel pretty much all my life, ever since I graduated in 2009. I've been with the Tata and Siemens groups. I've been in the projects, infrastructure and energy space pretty much that entire time. Really happy to get this invitation from you guys, and just happy to have a chat with you.
We're really happy to have you here too, sir. Right off the bat, how did you even become an in-house P.I.E lawyer? For you, what does a typical day at work look like?
Take the first question as maybe three different questions. How did I become a lawyer in the first place? How did I become an in-house lawyer? And then P.I.E lawyer, which is probably the least interesting bit. I never actually thought I would be a lawyer. I grew up thinking I'd study English or history. I still think maybe I should have done food history or something because that is actually my passion. When I was in school, I thought some of my friends were planning to study law. They were taking the law entrance exams. I thought it seemed like something interesting, something you could do with some knowledge of communication and common sense. I still think that. So I gave the entrance exams. I got through NLU Jodhpur. I thought, why not give it a try? And then I realized, this does seem, something that I'd like to do, something that is of interest to me. And that's just how I became a lawyer. How I became an in-house lawyer, again, not something I planned for. Luck had a big role. I knew that I didn't want to, be a law firm lawyer. Those hours just seemed crazy to me. I wanted work-life balance in my life. So I knew that I didn't want to be a law firm lawyer. I thought about litigation for a while, but somebody senior asked me, do you have financial stability for 5 to 10 years? I said, no, I don't. I have to take care of my family. So he said, then don't do it. You will not be able to cope with that kind of financial pressure that the first 5-10 years of litigation puts on you. So I thought, okay, I won't do that either. And then I just didn't know what to do, which also wasn't the right approach. I should have tried to figure out something. And I think nowadays there's a lot more information available than maybe there was in my time in law school on the various things that you can do. I wouldn't have thought of half of the things that students are doing these days, which is great. I really, appreciate the fact that people are willing to explore these alternative, quote unquote, career options, which should be as mainstream as they should. For me, what happened was the Tata Group just came for recruitment to my law school. I just happened to get through and thought, okay, this seems interesting. They're promising work-life balance, so why don't I give it a shot? And I did, and then I found, yes, this is something I enjoy. I enjoy being passionate about my work and spending that time. But I also enjoy then switching off afterwards, having some me time to myself, having some me time with my loved ones. I was just, the right person in the right place at the right time. I didn't choose it as much as maybe this life just chose me. Again, maybe that's not the right way for everybody. Some people would want to research more to figure out what they want to do. To me, it just happened, and I was happy that it just happened. And maybe the last bit, how I became a P.I.E lawyer. When I joined the Tata Group, they said, you like doing arbitration. We have a couple of arbitrations happening in one of our group companies, which is Voltas. And I just started doing that, and those just happened to be in the projects infrastructure space. I found I enjoyed doing that. As I was working on those disputes, I got a lot of pre-disputes work in other projects for Voltas. I found I enjoyed doing that. And then I just continued doing that. So again, just something that happened to me, and I just went with the flow, which is, I mean, for me, that was good because I'm that kind of person, but it's not something I would normally recommend to everybody else. But it is something I have enjoyed because as it has happened to happen, and I have happened to enjoy it. So it's worked out.
A lot of this advice
Uh,
is still super valid for people in law school right now, and for me, because we still have, you were talking about quote unquote alternative options, career options, but even
yeah,
right now people still have that idea of, oh, you either get into litigation or go into a
absolutely.
law firm, and it was discussed also in a previous episode. So you're right. I think they do deserve to be as mainstream as they should. In that case, do you think there is a certain level of specialized knowledge that is necessary to be a P.I.E lawyer?
I think at the base level, at the starting level, and at any level,
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain level of just basic legal knowledge which you have to take for granted, but that is very basic. Yeah, I mean, it's your contracts, it's your sale of goods, it's just your understanding of how the law works. It's just basic legal concepts, and your understanding of them. Quote one of my favorite lawyer movies. You have to understand it like a 2-year-old. Yeah, if
Mm-hmm.
you can explain it like you would to a 2-year-old, then you know that concept well enough to explain it to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you can do is you can apply it to the complex topics that come to you every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I see it, as in-house lawyers, as lawyers, our job is to simplify complexity. So unless you have complex concepts simplified in your mind, you can't
Mm-hmm.
apply it to complexity and then simplify those complex questions. Yes, a certain level of basic legal knowledge definitely is required, helps. A
Mm-hmm.
certain level of basic knowledge of how the infrastructure business works, because it's very different from other businesses in some ways and very similar in other ways. I mean, profit and loss, supply and demand, these work the same way in any business, but
Mm-hmm.
how an infrastructure project is structured, this is of course very different. But once you again start to get into the details of it, how something is scheduled, how a project is scheduled, why delays work the way they do, why variations work the way they do, then again you can just relate it back to very simple concepts. You know, when I try to explain what a project schedule looks like to someone, the example that I give is that when you think about making scrambled eggs, yeah, you also have a schedule in your mind, which is I have to start with my raw materials, which is eggs, which is my cooking utensil, which is my oil, whatsoever. Then I do this, I crack the egg, then I, fry it for some time, I stir it, I add spices. So this is a schedule that you have in your mind. So
Yeah.
once you can relate this complex concept of a schedule to simple things that we do in our daily life,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, procurement can be related to groceries. Project scheduling can be related to just anything and everything in how we schedule our daily life.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, these complex concepts about infrastructure, about projects, they help you,
Yeah.
but only if you can simplify them into simple concepts and then explain them to other people or apply them to the complex questions that come up in our daily work. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's important to have a certain level of basic knowledge, certain level of specialized knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But what is really critical for me is that you should be comfortable enough with that knowledge as simple concepts that
Mm-hmm.
you can then apply it. So the application is maybe more important for me than how deep your specialized knowledge is. Because if you have deep specialized knowledge but can't apply it, then maybe it's not as helpful.
Interesting. And do you think that there's a wide gap in the said, like, having that said knowledge and applying that knowledge?
To some extent, yes.
Uh-huh.
There are people out there who have deep knowledge and can explain it in simple concepts every day and do that.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there are also people who do the daily work day in and day out because it's done in that way. So I think it's all about your mindset. Do you do something with the mindset that this is the way it has always been done? This is how I've learned to do it, and so I will do it this way. Or do you do that work thinking, okay, why is this done this way? Why is this done that way? Could it be done differently? Could it be done better, faster? If you have a growth mindset, then you're always thinking about how to get better at the things that you are doing, you are seeing being done in front of you. And I think that's why this mindset is so crucial. And that's something that, I mean, everyone can have it. Everyone should have it. But it's still something that I think is a work in progress for most people, for all of us. Yeah, it's a work in progress for me as well. But I think this is something that's important when you're thinking of the gap between knowledge and application, is to always think of it in terms of what is called a growth mindset of thinking, how can I get better at this? How can I do this better? And if you think of knowledge in that way, then you will always be application oriented, because that's what getting better means, how you apply it better.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's a goal that you have to always keep working towards.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the listeners, Raj has worked with ijpiel on a scintillating piece. It's known as The Mystery of the Efficient and Responsible Litigant. Please check out the website. We will include it in the description of the video. Considering that previous publication, what is the role of data analytics and / or data-driven research in your line of work, or even in the legal profession, not just your line of work?
Okay. And maybe to answer this question, I tell you about this anecdote I really like. What is the use of electricity? And he answered, what is the use of a baby? And to some extent, I think data analytics, especially in the legal profession, is just a completely newborn baby. We still don't know all percent of all the things that it could do. We can guess, we can imagine. Maybe one day we already have slightly smart contracts, by which we mean that, you enter some details into a form and it creates a template contract for you. But that could get just so much more exciting, could have bots that are drafting entire contracts much faster than we could. Because the templates already exist. If you go through enough templates, you have enough data, a bot could potentially draft any contract in the world. Yeah. You could have bots, if they go through, let's say, the entire database of Supreme Court, High Court, District Court judgments, and then you give them a certain set of facts, they could probably predict win-loss success percentages better than any lawyer, because lawyers are not trained to think that way. Yeah, we don't think, the it depends mentality is very different from a bot, because a bot will tell you with these facts, percentage of success in district court this much, high court this much, Supreme Court this much. This could happen. Yeah, you could have bots writing judgments in the future, maybe even in our lifetime. Who knows? Yeah. The possibilities for data analytics in the legal profession are just endless, and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the things that could be done, and I hope will be done. Yeah, because a lot of people will think that, oh, if bots are replacing lawyers, what is in it for us? And I think this is the completely wrong way to be looking at it, because bots can never replace the human part of being a lawyer. Yeah, the real value add of a lawyer is not in the clerical or the administrative, is not in mugging up 100,000 judgments, because there will always be someone who can mug up 100,001 judgments. It's in the strategic, it's in the creative, it's in how we inspire others via our communication to come together towards a common goal to solve a common problem. And that's something a bot will never do. Yeah, that's something data analytics can only help you with, but you'll still need lawyers for this. So I think that if we could apply data analytics to our world, it would make our lives much easier and free us up to do at least what I think are the really interesting, really cool parts of being a lawyer, and skip maybe some of the still required, but slightly more boring parts to me of being a lawyer. I'm sure there are people out there who enjoy researching a judgment for days on end in libraries. I was never one of them. I could do it, but I didn't think that was the fun part,
Yeah.
I thought the fun part was once you know what these judgments say, to then apply your mind creatively and come up with an argument. That part will always remain. I think, the possibilities are limitless. What we can do so far is very, very limited. And I think it's a catch-22 situation in some ways, because as we as lawyers, as organizations, we evaluate what legal tech exists in the world today. And it's come a long way from, in the last 5-10 years. The functionalities are still limited, not by our imagination, because our imagination can go places that the tech still cannot. But just by the level to which this tech has developed so far. The only way that this tech will develop more is if we use it more. So we don't want to use it because the tech hasn't developed yet. It isn't, optimized yet, but it will never be optimized if we don't use it. So it's a little bit of a dilemma we're in there. So it is something that we have to think about much more seriously. I hope that a lot of these jumps in legal tech will happen in my lifetime. The starting point will be data analytics, getting more contracts, getting more judgments, laws, whatever, into these big data databases, and then just seeing what creative ways we can use this big data. For me, this is something that's really exciting. And most of this data is already out there. All these judgments, they're all public information. Contracts, maybe not so public information. But just imagine what could be done with a database of judgments of the world. The mind boggles to think of all the possible applications of this. But yeah, I don't think we're there yet. And of course, we won't be there for another 10, 20, maybe 30 years. But I think we will see this happen sooner rather than later. I'm at least very excited by it.
It's a refreshingly utopian and optimistic approach towards technology. And I think personally, I've already on a much lighter note, by the way, but I have seen examples of this where people have shown bots or AI maybe 100 episodes of a show and ask them to create another script for the same show. And the AI is often suspiciously specific and have gotten the right tropes and the right kind of idea, the vibe of the script. So I think you're right. It's not too far away where we'll see such work in the legal field too.
Let's hope so. Most of these examples that I've seen so far, they've been funny because they've been sometimes super accurate, and sometimes they've been funny because they've been super inaccurate. But that's, I think, just a limitation of the data set rather than the the software or the tech itself.
Yeah, interesting. In our earlier conversations, you spoke about the new ESG norms. The listeners need to know that it's environmental, social, and governance norms. And you also spoke about how green hydrogen specifically shows a great promise as a future fuel source in a decarbonized economy. What would you like our listeners to know about that?
This is also asking what is the use of a baby. These are also just baby steps that we've started taking. Just as a parallel, financial reporting norms, there's a unified financial reporting guideline called the IFRS, which all companies all around the world follow. But when you look at ESG norms and reporting around that, there's some norms out there, some guidelines of how to do it by some institutes, but nothing that's common across the world. Around the world, governments are starting to say, why don't you self-report what you're doing about environmental sustainability, about governance topics, even human rights topics. And these are baby steps. In India right now, we have the top 1,000 listed companies by market cap. They have to release something called the BRSR, the Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report. This again has developed over the last few years. Initially, it was just a checkbox, yes, no questions, which really didn't help. And now it's become something maybe a little bit more interesting. You have to self-report where you are on certain KPIs, of where you are in terms of how you are addressing ESG impacts, what kind of ESG impact you are having, and it's again just a baby step. It's difficult to say whether this kind of reporting is possible for some of the smaller companies, for MSMEs, but at least it's a start by asking the top listed companies to do it. But as Siemens, I think we've always been an organization which likes to be, a little bit ahead of the curve. And we are already talking about degree framework, which we think is, even more than ESG. And degree for us, it stands for, the D is for decarbonization, because we as an organization want to offer decarbonization solutions. Ethics, because we think now companies need to go beyond just following the law and be maybe an ethical, responsible member of society. We're talking about governance, which is the G. We're talking about resource efficiency, which is again a part of this decarbonization story. And we're also talking about equity and employability. There's no major organization in the world today which can say that we won't look at diversity, equity, and inclusion. This has become as much of a business imperative as it is an ethical imperative in today's world.
Right.
Employability, the last part, we talked about what is possible in the world of tomorrow, what is possible 10, 20, 30 years down, just in the legal industry. All of this is possible in every other industry. There's reports out there which say that 50-60% of the workforce today may not be employable 10, 20 years down the line if we don't upskill ourselves. So it's important for us as an organization to upskill not just our own employees, but again, the youth of today. So Siemens is involved in scholarship programs. It's involved in ITIs to try to help young people of today get the skills that they need to be employable in the future. And I think, this just shows that as organizations, each of us have to set maybe a higher standard for ourselves. And I'm really proud that Siemens is doing this through this degree framework. The green hydrogen part of it is, again, another exciting part of it. And again, the baby example, because hydrogen, of course, is not new. It's been around as long as the universe, but hydrogen as an industrial input, let's say, is important in lots of industries. It's important in chemical industries, agricultural industries, because of methane, because of ammonia, because of urea. What we are realizing today is, not today, but over the last 5-10 years, is that if we are going to meet the temperature reduction goals that we're talking about, or even get anywhere close to them, forget about meeting them, then it's important that we decarbonize not just the entire energy chain, because energy contributes maybe 40% of greenhouse gases. But you also have to decarbonize industry, you have to decarbonize transport, you have to decarbonize buildings, which contribute the balance 60%.
Absolutely.
And it is possible, not easy, but it is possible to decarbonize the energy industry because of renewable energies. Again, we still need to find the right mix between renewables and non-renewables. We need to figure out what works and doesn't work in countries like India, where people still don't have access to electricity.
Obviously.
Even if you manage to do all this, it doesn't help if 60% of greenhouse gas emissions are still left unaddressed.
Right.
And what we're realizing now is it is possible, if you have green sources of energy, to use that renewable energy to produce, it's called green hydrogen because it's produced green energy by splitting water. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Most of the hydrogen that's used in industry today, it's called gray or black or brown hydrogen because it's produced from fossil fuels. If you can produce enough green hydrogen in a way that's resource efficient, in a way that's less expensive than gray or black hydrogen, it is possible then to replace that hydrogen into other industries and potentially decarbonize them as well. So have lesser carbon emissions from that 60% as well by using green hydrogen. Again, it's something that's at super developmental stage right now. The science is there, yeah, the technology is there, but the economics is not there yet. Green hydrogen is still more expensive. But this is something that can be addressed. It can be addressed by policy. It can be addressed by economies of scale. And again, it's something that India is trying to do. Our viewers may have seen that India has just released a green hydrogen policy where we are trying to make not the production of green hydrogen yet, but the transmission of green hydrogen cheaper, so that the cost of green hydrogen at the production facility and at wherever it's going to be used remains same or similar. So in a way, it will reduce the use cost of hydrogen. There also needs to be more done in terms of incentivizing the use of green hydrogen in industry. And it's something the government is considering. But again, we're not there yet. Maybe we get there in the next 5 to 10 years. Hopefully we get there. But again, it's something that I'm very excited because we as Siemens, we get to work on this solution. We're partnering with the biggest PSUs in the energy space in India. We just announced as Siemens Energy partnerships with some of the other big players in this renewable energy space. And it's very exciting to be at this crossroads. And if we can contribute to the decarbonization story, to the reduction of temperatures around the world, then I think we as lawyers can also say that we're doing something good for this world, and that's not something that you get to say every day.
Nice. I'm glad that is the trend that we're noticing, that we're moving away from just having placeholder policies for doing things, for appeasing the idea of being energy conservative or being green. I'm glad that there's actual substantial policies, both from companies and from governments, because I feel like that speaks about accountability at the very least.
So I think I would definitely say, don't be like me. Like I said, I didn't plan my career, and I don't think that's the right message for anyone. I think go with the flow, even if you do plan your career, is maybe a better message. That did help me quite a bit to just go with the flow and let things happen and let myself enjoy them. That being said, maybe one thing to law students, to lawyers everywhere, is that I think we need to get out of the silos that we have created for each other. I don't think we as lawyers, as law students, we interact enough with the outside world just as human beings, as non-lawyers. Yeah, we talk shop maybe a little bit too much. We use legalese a little bit too much.
Yeah.
The more we interact with the outside world, on the outside world's terms and not on our own terms as lawyers, as some kind of special class, I think the world will understand the value that we bring better, because we will have more to offer to the world. I think that would be my only message, which is that lawyers are not a special class. We're just like everyone else, and we should be just like everyone else. Our words and our actions, this needs to come out.
Right. Thank you so much for humanizing us. Thank you, Raj, for coming on this episode, for your insight and for the information.
Thank you
so
much,
valuable.
Anish.
And for the listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you have any feedback, if you want to participate in this discussion, please reach out to us in the email in the description. Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much for being here.